Testing, testing. Mic check. 1, 2, 3. All right, here we go. Yo, 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 what's really good? This is Streetwise. I'm your host, Matthew McReynolds, and today we're going to talk about SULA, Step Up Leadership Accelerator. It's an 8-week cohort that helps entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people who are building a team. It helps you step up your leadership, step out of your business so you can elevate yourself and your company and reach higher levels. It's an 8-week cohort broken up into 4 key segments, 4 key sections. We talk about a different step in the process. Again, it's a 4-step process. Step 1, we're talking about assessments. We take this first week and we really dive into what it means to be you. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are things that fill your cup? What are things that poke holes in your cup? And there's a lot of different assessments that we dive down. I want to give you the option and the opportunity to have a full scale perspective of yourself, because that's where we start. You have to know thyself. If you don't know yourself and what makes you tick, it's going to be very difficult to build a team. So what's the first thing you got to do when you actually do step out and build a team? You've got to find someone who can replace you in areas that you're weak. If I'm a solopreneur, if I'm a one-man army, and I'm doing everything there is to do in my business, I might feel like I have a good handle on all of it, but there are definitely things that I do not like doing. If you're the technician in your business and you like getting your hands dirty and you like getting out there and actually doing the work and interacting with the customer, we're talking about the back office admin stuff, the bookkeeping, the accounts receivable, the banking, the taxes. These are all things that you don't like to do. Maybe that's your forte, but actually getting out and talking to people and doing the sales, maybe that's what you're not good at. Maybe that's the thing that grinds you down. Or you're really good at sales and you're really good at the actual craft, but you've been doing it for so long that it's starting to wear you down. And there's a new generation of people out there that are doing the thing, but they're young and they're fresh. And you, because you've been doing it so long, have struggled to scale because you're a one-man army. Now you're ready to duplicate your output and your production. Bringing somebody on might be a smart pick for you. But we can't do any of that if we don't actually dive deep into ourselves and know what we're good at and what we need to replace, what fills our cup and what is just oh so draining. The assessments that I like and that I'll go through as we teach SULA, the Strengths Finder. That was one of the first ones that I did, the Clifton Strengths Finder. There's 34 unique strengths that a person could possibly have. As humans, we tend to have a top 5, and depending on which level of assessment you purchase or pick, it'll show you your top 5, it'll show you your top 10, your top 15. When I first did it, I only got my top 5, and I did it again a few years later, and it was interesting because there are a lot of consistencies. It was mainly all the same, but there were a couple new ones in my top 5. And so I took a deeper look, and some of the ones that were in my top 5 were still in my top 10, but they'd been replaced by things that I've had to curate as I've evolved over the last 15 years. You know, we do stay basically the same, but we develop, we grow, and through that growth, people can change, and you can change your situation and your environment. That's a side note for another conversation. The Clifton Strengths Finder. Second, a disc. You know, there's a lot of different variations, but the disc profile, Tony Robbins got a good one. Enneagram, I love me some Enneagram. That's more of a interpersonal type of thing, how you interact and relate to the people around you and how you respond when you're in a healthy state versus an unhealthy state. Working Geniuses by Pat Lencioni and the team over there at the Table Group. Man, I am huge fans of those guys and everything that they have going on. I think their work is awesome. And Working Geniuses talks about the 6 specific and unique working geniuses that a person could have, from invention, wonder, enablement, discernment, tenacity, and lastly, galvanizing. So let's say that again. The 6 working geniuses are invention, wonder, galvanizing, enablement, discernment, and tenacity. So the idea is every person has 2 of these traits that qualify as their working genius. These are the things that when you do them, man, you are on fire, you're at your best. Then we have 2 that are our working competencies. These are things that we might be really good at, but maybe we don't like doing. That doesn't fill our cup, but it also, we get by. And then lastly, we have our working failures. These are the 2 things that if we might be great at them or we might be terrible at them, it doesn't matter. If we get caught doing them on a consistent basis, we will dread going to work every day. I used to work for a company. I was in the call center, and it was my job to make 200 dials a day. Shout out FanCloth. I loved the people on that team. I still have a lot of great relationships with the people that were on that team. One of the best work and fun work environments that I've ever been a part of. I was there for just under 8 months. But man, when Sunday came rolling around, I was walking around like a zombie, depressed. My now wife will tell you. If it was Sunday, I was sad because I didn't want to go to work. Because sitting down at a desk, working a call center, doing 200 dials a day, cold calls, was not for me. Now, it was a great experience. And I think that there are times in our life chapters where we gotta shut up and grind, because there's a lot of lessons that we learn from being in those states. But if we're talking about what we're becoming, where we're going, who we're becoming, you need to be able to acknowledge if you're in a situation where you're called on doing tasks that are depleting to you, that are poking holes in your cup. I have nothing to give out to other people if my cup is empty. It's my responsibility to be doing the due diligence and looking for ways and protecting myself, but essentially looking for ways to protect my cup, to patch the holes in my cup, and then to get my cup refilled. Working Genius, that assessment does a really good job of giving perspective to where should I be in my organization. And as I'm building out my team, if I know that I'm really good at galvanizing and discernment as my working geniuses, and my working competencies are invention and tenacity, my working failures are the enablement and the wonder. Now I can enable people. I can wonder with people. But if that's all we're doing and we're not putting pen to paper, whew, I'm going to have a hard time hanging out. I really am. I need help in those areas. Now I can be tenacious. I can knock stuff off the list with the best of them. But I'm not always the most organized, and I do tend to get distracted. And if things take a long time to get done, I'm definitely not a perfectionist. So I might just start tacking these things off. Well, I might need somebody on my team that's a little more detail oriented. I need to have people in my circle that can sit down, can slow us down, and wonder how we can make things better. People who are more focused on the base level, as I'm the visionary for my organization, and that's the next assessment that I'm going to talk about. I need people on the team who are on the back end that are holding it all down as I keep my eyes looking forward and looking up. So if I know myself, I can find people on the team that can counterbalance my weaknesses. That is Working Geniuses. Now next, the Crystallizer assessment. Now this was created by the team over at EOS Worldwide, the whole EOS library. You've got Traction, Rocket Fuel, EOS Life. Now, the first book that I read from the EOS library was Rocket Fuel. And Rocket Fuel talks about the difference between the visionary in the organization and the integrator in the organization. The visionary is the one with 20 ideas. They're great at relationships. Most of the ideas, by the way, are bad, but it doesn't matter because they keep producing and they know that one of them is gold. Well, they need that integrator on the squad to make sure that everything in the day-to-day is being done well and at a high level. Now, I took the crystallizer assessment and realized that I tested pretty highly in both. If you have a score over 70 in either one, you could play this role for your organization or another person's organization, right? So I tested at a 92 for visionary and an 81 in integrator, high on both accounts. So I thought, oh, great, this is exactly what I'm doing. But when I really looked deeper, I realized that my visionary was cutting the legs out from under my integrator, and my organization was suffering. I needed to find somebody who could be the integrator for my organization. Do they have to be as good as an integrator as I am? No. Now, I recommend that they score above 70. You don't want to bring somebody in as an integrator who's not an integrator, but if they're 70 or higher on the crystallizer assessment, then you know this person can fill this place. They can sit in this seat on your team. And that's exactly what you need. And I've since been able to find an integrator, and man, it's like I just took a hit of Red Bull and now I have wings. I can fly. I'm so much lighter knowing that the day-to-day of my business is being managed by someone who cares and who's going to be better at it than I am because I'm so torn in multiple directions. So necessary. That's the crystallizer assessment. Now, the last one that I'll talk about here, and it's a new one for me. It is not one that I grew up with as I was coming up, but got put on very recently by my good friend Jeff Schaefer, EOS implementer extraordinaire, the Kolbe assessment. There's a difference between how we process things cognitively versus conatively. I hope I said that right. I will fix this in the post editing. You got to stick around to the end. If I ever mess anything up, I'll come back at the end with the correction. Or, I'll just cut it out and you will never know about it. What I know about the Kolbe assessment is how it's helped me. By taking the Kolbe assessment, I realized that in certain rooms, well, really in all rooms, I am a mediator. There's extremes on all ends of the spectrum, but I can dabble in both. Therefore, I can pull the room towards the center. For example, there's one of the pillars is quick start. I wasn't all the way in the quick start category. I think it scales from 1 to 10. I was somewhere as maybe a 6, where anything 8, 9, and 10 is, oh yeah, you're a quick start. Those are the type of people that just, they get an idea and they go. I can hang out with those people. I can dabble in that room, but I also know how to pull somebody who is the opposite end, might be more of a fact finder. I know how to pull the two together. So I'm a mediator. That helped me so much in understanding why I can interact and I can be in the room, but I'm always stuck in the middle. It's actually a superpower. So I plan on learning more about the Kolbe assessment. That one is actually, that's my sleeper pick. I've got a lot of value from that one. The Strengths Finder was my OG assessment. I have all my team take the Strengths Finder, all the people on my leadership team, Strengths Finder, Working Genius. If I know somebody's going to come up and be a pivotal role, maybe run a brand or be an operator for me, then the Crystallizer assessment is huge as well. But hey, folks, that's just number one. That's week 1 of our 4-session, 8-week cohort that we're talking about here, SULA, Step Up Leadership Accelerator. Number 2, accountability. Now, I've talked about accountability before, and it is super, super difficult. But I'll just hit you with this. If you don't have systems of accountability with yourself and on your team, you're not going far. You can go fast alone, but in order to go far, you have to have people around you that support you, that care about you, that maybe or maybe not, their success relies on you being successful. You need to have a balance of both. The people that are on your team, they need to know that you care about them and that you're going to empower them to be great. You need to know that, okay, these people might not be as excellent as you are across the board, but you've put the right people in the right seats. So if you let them go as a leader, all you have to do is LMA, lead, manage, and hold accountable. You don't have to micromanage. You manage systems, not the people. You put the people in place. And if you have accountability and everybody trusts one another, you can go so far and so high. Patrick Lencioni, another reference for him is The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. Great book. It's attached very closely to The Ideal Team Player, which again, that is another phenomenal resource and tool. The Ideal Team Player focuses on how you should hire and build up your team, and it focuses more on the individual. Are you humble? Are you hungry? Are you smart? And smart is emotional intelligence. But I also think you got to have some IQ in there. And when you mix the two together, what do you get? You get streetwise, baby. The Five Dysfunctions of a Team focuses on the levels in which the team must rise, starting at the very bottom. Do these people trust one another? If I don't trust you, I can't be vulnerable with you. And if we can't be vulnerable, we're setting up shields and defenses to where accountability cannot exist. Another great book written by Robert Hunt and Salem Thine is called Nobody Cares Until You Do. They have a tool called the Accountability Mountain. And I love it because it just goes so deep into our own journeys of accountability and the reality behind it that, okay, I'm going to climb up a little bit, but in order to get farther on the mountain, I have to step down. And I know that there's going to be a natural decline in my progress in order to step back up to a higher peak. And I just love that metaphor because it's just a reminder that we're all on a journey of progress, not perfection. And we have to truly own that and take a step forward. Accountability is huge, but it is often one of the most hardest things for us as individuals, as leaders, as solopreneurs and entrepreneurs. Man, having to be accountable to somebody else, most of us, that's the reason we feel like we got out of working for others, is because we didn't want to be held accountable by anybody else. Well, newsflash, you better check your mindset. Because if that's truly where you're at, you can have fun building a lifestyle business and, being self-employed and not having a boss. Congratulations. That's good for you. And for most people, that's okay. But if you really want to build something great, you need people around you who can hold you accountable. Pillar 3, energy. Now, I talk a lot about energy because this is what's the most important to me. Man, it is huge. How do we create? How do we protect? How do we inspire? How do we set boundaries in and around our energy? And I went into it before. This is our cup. What do we have in our cup? What is the dexterity and the durability of the cup? Does it get holes poked in it easily? Am I tossing it around? Even the most durable cup, you drop it off of a skyscraper and then run over it on it with an 18-wheeler. Is going to have a hard time holding anything after that. We have to protect our cup. We have to set boundaries for ourselves. But how do we set boundaries for ourselves while inspiring other people around the vision that we're creating for ourselves and for our organization? We can't build a team if all we do is set boundaries. We can't build relationships if all we do is set boundaries. Now, there's going to be chapters in our lives where boundaries are more important, and you need to protect your space. And then there's going to be times where inspiration and what you're putting out, God put something in your heart. Now, if all you're doing is protecting it, you're no better than the servant who was given a talent from his master, a piece of silver, $100 from his master, and he hid it because he was afraid to lose it. That's what you're doing if you've been given a word, if you've been given a gift, and all you do is protect it. In order to truly steward something, you have to plant it. You have to water it, you have to sow it, you have to work the field. Then you got to be fruitful and multiply. The inverse of The one servant was the one who was given 10 pieces of silver. He was given 100,000 bucks. He went, flipped it 10 times, gave it all back to his master. And if you know the story, you know the one that got rewarded was the one that flipped it. He was the one that stewarded his gift. You have to inspire, you have to build relationships. You cannot get on just by protecting yourself. But how do you find the balance between the two? Where do you take breaks in your business for clarity? Pastors go on sabbaticals. Writers, when they're big on a project, they take time off. They separate themselves from the world around them so they can be centered. How are you doing that for your business, for your life? What time are you taking off to spend with your family, the people who truly matter and the people that truly love you? How are you making sure that you're not burning the candle on both ends? That's energy. Session 4. Delegation. How do I delegate in order to elevate? How have I, now that I've been on this journey, how am I looking for the next man up, the next woman up who can step up and replace me? And it's great because this is the step that you have to take in order to build your business. This is actually the first step you have to take in building your business, but you can't take this step if you miss the first 3. If you don't know yourself, if you don't know the people around you currently, if you haven't built up accountability, if you haven't protected and learned about your own energy and what you need to do to create it and steward it, you can't delegate out key responsibilities, build a leadership team, and elevate yourself up out of your business if you don't delegate. So you have to have a sense of purpose in becoming a mentor. But not only that, you have to seek out mentors for yourself. It's the whole principle of Barnabas, Paul, and Timothy, where the central character is Paul. Paul had a mentor who was Barnabas. Paul was a mentor to Timothy, and it was cyclical. Paul gained probably just as much from being a mentor to Timothy as he gained from being a mentee of Barnabas. And that's what we need to have in our lives. It's all cyclical. In order to gain, we have to give. We need to be looking for ways that we can be mentors, but we also need to acknowledge that we don't know everything and that we need mentors in our own life. Step 4, delegate. Now let me run it back for you real quick. Session 1, we dive into assessments. When you come on to the cohort, you're going to get access to all the assessments. You're going to take the assessments. Then we're going to come in and we're going to break each one of them down with scenarios, with tactics, with tools. You'll then be given homework on the next session, which is accountability. You'll be given resources and books to study, questions to ponder over. You're going to have systems of accountability with the other members in the cohort. And oh yes, we'll be having a guest speaker at each session who is an expert in the given topic that will then be able to come in and help coordinate and lead some dialogue along with some lessons and tools that they've experienced in their life. So it's not just me and my theory and what I've brought on, but I'm going to be partnering with speakers in specific areas to come on and help us on this journey together. Session 3, energy. Again, resources, tools, books, things that have helped me this whole journey, this whole program. I was able to build this with an EOS implementer, with the concept of, as I was learning about traction and EOS and how I wanted to self-implement it because I wasn't quite ready to bring on an EOS implementer into my organization, we created a pathway for solopreneurs and entrepreneurs if they're not ready for EOS, which EOS you typically have 10 to 500 employees on the team. But if you're not quite there yet, how do we build out tools and a system to help somebody get there? There's going to be a lot of EOS concepts in this cohort and in this program. One of our key resources for session 3 is EOS Life, which at the end of the book, he talks about the 10 principles that you need as an entrepreneur and a business leader to build out the true EOS life for yourself. And man, there's a lot of phenomenal gems in that book. It is definitely one of my favorite in the EOS library. And lastly, delegation. there's going to be a lot of Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy references when it comes to delegation. Who, not how, anybody. But I'm excited for this cohort. I'm excited for this program. This is the first thing that I've really done to step out as a coach, specifically in business. But I don't just see it that way. Now, my background is in athletic coaching, and I became a life coach. I went to Wheaton College where I played football, ran track. As soon as I graduated, I went straight into the inner city of Chicago, worked on the west side, Chicago Hope Academy. I came on, I was the assistant athletic director. But man, I wore just about every hat a person could in that organization. The thing I love about nonprofits is that it gives somebody like me an opportunity to come in and just absorb and to learn. I was a Swiss Army knife in that place. Man, these students did not stand a chance with me. I would substitute teach their classes, sometimes multiple classes a day, depending on the time of year that it was. They would catch me in the cafeteria serving them food. I was after school coaching their sports. And in the summer, we started the work study program. That all led into my second job in the inner city, but this time it was in South Dallas. Had my 8-month stint in cold calls and then started my hustle. That hustle led me to create Hero Athletics. Teach, train, and build, baby. Leaders for tomorrow's generation. Our emphasis was academic tutoring, athletic development, life coaching, and mentorship for young athletes. That program led me to meet Miss Christy Lichtenberg down at Cornerstone Crossroads Academy in South Dallas. I started working there as a life coach. We built out a leadership development program, a work study program, and that's what I was doing right before I started my business with my dad, Mosquito Joe. It's an outdoor pest control franchise. I got all my business acumen and actual experience of running an above board business from Mosquito Joe. That was my education. That was my MBA. Feet on the ground, running. I quickly realized that I didn't know anything about anything. That's when I started hitting the books. That's when I started seeking out mentors. That's where I started my journey. This program has been a long time coming. At this point, we're talking about 15 years in the making. I'm excited for what it's going to do for people to level up, step out of their business, delegate so they can elevate themselves and reach their higher calling. SULA, Step Up Leadership Accelerator. And with all that, all I have left to say is this: stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. But wait, there's more. Hey, I told you I was going to come back at the end with some added context, some information to help us fill in the gaps. Here is EOS implementer extraordinaire Jeff Schaefer here to explain to us really the difference between our cognitive mind and our cognitive mind. Let's go.
Your cognitive mind is the part of your mind that is dedicated to your will, your innate force, your talents, really just your instinct. It's what you do when you're free to be yourself, when you're in your flow state. If you're free to be yourself, the first action you will take will be instinctual. Your cognitive mind is the thinking part of your mind. It's the part that you use because you've memorized a sequence or you understand a skill, you've learned something. Your cognitive is your learning side, your thinking side of your mind.
There it is. If that's not value, I don't know what is. I appreciate you so much for listening. Stay streetwise.